So today's live is, as I said, we have a special guest with us, and it's all about finding joy within. So let me ask you, are you dealing with stress, overwhelm, a demanding career, frustration, resentment, anger, be it at work, at home, within your job, in your relationships? It might be amongst your friends or in your life at large. Well, today I'm speaking with Kath Wynne-Jones about finding joy within. So a bit about Kath. Kath is passionate about living your life with purpose and authenticity, and is in equal measures concerned about the sustainability of public services and the financial and workforce challenges currently facing the health and the social care sector. She's an experienced executive coach, meditation teacher, TEDx speaker, and author. And Kath is passionate about resilience to enable people, families, organizations, and communities to thrive in today's society. And if resilience is your thing, I would recommend you go and check out her TEDx talk on the very subject. Kath specialises in how to help busy professionals have more fun and get more done. Wouldn't that be a great place to be? So, a bit of context around Kath's background. She's a chief officer of a partnership of health and social care organisations within the borough of Greater Manchester. She leads the development and implementation of strategy, systems and processes to ensure the effective delivery of care through the integrated delivery arrangements. So, let me bring Kath in. Kath, hello there. How are you today?
Hi, Leila. I'm good, thank you. And thank you so much for having me today with you.
It's an absolute pleasure, Kath. It's been a long time since we've had a good chat, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So first of all, I'd like you to share with me what's brought you through this journey to where you are today.
I think a number of things, really. So from when I was quite young, I always had a work hard driver. When I was 16, I had two jobs, one in Clark's shoe shop and one pulling medical records in a local hospital. So I've always kind of grown up with a really strong work ethic, and that kind of continued throughout my life. And work became a real motivator for me and a lot of my reason for being. And I also have a family who's got a daughter who is now 16. But at the time when she was growing up, I felt like everything was a bit out of balance with my work and my home life. And I started some work, personal development, back in 2011, but it's fair to say that I didn't necessarily learn the lessons. And in 2016, I was really forced to stop when I had kind of emotional breakdown, just because of complete overwork, about how much pressure I was putting on myself, trying to do everything, being a mum, doing my job, being a wife, being a friend, being a daughter. And it just completely brought me down with trying to do everything and trying to do everything perfectly. So after a period of about 6 weeks off work in December 2016, I started to reevaluate my life and realised that actually my work had become the place where I get all my value from myself as a person. And I really worked hard to change my self-belief that actually I am worthy as a person and that my career doesn't define me, even though it's a really important part of who I am. And so I spent a lot of time focusing on that and putting more time and energy into my home than I'd ever done before. I mean, I'd always been present at home for Emma as she was growing up in terms of physically present. I'm not sure I was always very mentally present for her, which was kind of one of the regrets that I had. And so I spent some time focusing on kind of like really being present at home and using techniques like meditation to just make me present where I was. And then in 2019, my ex-husband and I unfortunately separated. We both changed in different ways and kind of felt that things weren't really kind of working out and kind of where we both wanted to be. So we separated, and then I found a new distraction in my life, which was Prosecco. So I wouldn't say I was by any means an alcoholic, but certainly at the weekends, Prosecco had definitely become a good addition to my list. And in fact, if I'm completely honest with myself, there probably haven't been many weekends since I was a teenager, other than when I was pregnant with Emma, that I hadn't had a drink. So I wasn't a weekday drinker, but certainly at weekends, it was something that was kind of really part of my fabric, about a way of relaxing and a way of enjoyment. And so in May 2020, when I decided that actually I just didn't want alcohol in my life anymore, because it was becoming, it was taken away from my mental health, it was taken away from my physical health, that I just didn't want it in my life anymore, that I actually found I had a lot of space and a lot of time where I wasn't kind of feeling shattered from the day after I'd had a glass of wine and getting up late. So
sorry to interject there, Kath. Just let me ask you, what was it that had you have that realization about the drinking and the impact it was having? Because oftentimes people may not even recognize it's a problem. It's an enjoyment, and they do it and it's okay, and it carries on and it's not a problem. So what was it that made you have that realization?
So it was after a bank holiday weekend. So we'd had May bank holiday. I'd had time off with them, and we'd spent time in our social bubble. We were obviously in lockdown at the time, and lockdown had become an excuse for me not to have to go anywhere. And so I wasn't regulating my drinking as much as I was doing pre-lockdown. And so we'd had a week off at half term. And because we were out and about, parks, beach, canoeing, with our support bubble, I brought all the bottles back with me as I'd been out during the week. And when I got to Friday, bear in mind I'd been off Monday, and I did allow myself weekday drinking when I was on holiday from work. I had 10 empty bottles on the
wall, yeah.
yeah, on the kitchen unit. And so I kind of thought, this has just got to stop, because it had become my go-to for stress relief, for enjoyment, for continuing the night, for loneliness, but for anything. It had become my kind of crutch, even though I didn't realize it. But when I saw kind of the bottles in front of me from a week's holiday, I thought kind of, this has got to stop. And that took me on a completely different path, because, as I say, I had so much time. I also had quite a lot of emptiness as well as time. There were some very negative parts about it, about the emptiness that I was feeling. And I didn't know how to replace the kind of enjoyment and the stress relief that I'd had from alcohol, unbeknowingly, and the kind of the kind of time that work took up for me previously. I had no idea how to fill my time and what to do and how to kind of bring joy back into my life without kind of the use of a substance. So I then started on a journey about bringing joy back into my life, but intentionally bringing joy back into my life. And that's been the journey that I've been on now since May 2020. And I'm kind of not perfect by any means. I'm still a work in progress. But, I believe I've got some knowledge, some insight, some wisdom that I can share with people that are on their journey of taking distractions out of their life. And not just alcohol. I think the methods that I've kind of applied and used myself are equally applicable to kind of sugar, to work distractions, to alcohol, whatever it might be, because I very quickly found that once I'd stopped drinking, that sugar became quite an issue for me. So I then kind of had to reapply the same method then to sugar and how I was looking after my exercise and my nutrition.
Yeah, and it's interesting, you talk about distractions, and I think unless we have an element of self-awareness about us, it's often we can quickly miss the fact that we are distracting from things just by habits that we pick up. Now, that doesn't have to be bad habits or things that impact us adversely. They can be things potentially that are a distraction from reality, but actually, for example, going running. its potential can be a distraction from staying at home and dealing with a situation or avoidance of something. So there's a lot of habits and a lot of things that we do, often without realizing, that are a distraction from our reality, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home, in our relationship with family, our finances, and we'll stick our head in the sand and we'll distract. Or we'll do something. I know people who, for example, they go and shop a lot. They'll shop for clothes and shoes and bags, and half of them you'll never see them use, but it's that immediate feeling and distracting away from what's really going on, which could be around self-esteem. It could be confidence. It's not feeling good enough, but these things, I go and buy them. They make me feel good. And it's a distraction. So there's so many ways that distraction can show up. Completely. And I think it's if we're not, let's say, living consciously or having that level of awareness to what we're actually doing and why we're doing it, we can overlook it, just keep going on. And that's not to say it will cause us damage. It may not, but actually facing up to what is it you're hiding from, what is it you're distracting from. I've been there myself. I've thrown myself in my corporate career into my job for years to distract from other things, and became much more aware of it when I started my personal development journey 10 years back. So we all do it in some shape or form. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing that we're doing or it's going to affect us in our health necessarily, but it's opening up to that awareness. So I think that's a really important point you shared there, Kath. And as you said, it's great that you recognize the impact it was having for you in this case with the drinking, and impact on your health and your mental health, as well as I'm guessing your physical health in some way as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the weekends. I was regularly kind of waking up at 3:00 in the morning with palpitations, with anxiety, then couldn't get back to sleep. So it was, even though I wasn't kind of drinking huge amounts, it was still impacting on me physically and impacting on me in terms of I just wasn't getting proper rest to recharge my batteries ready for going back to work on Mondays.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are guilty of actually throwing themselves into their work to distract from things that are going on outside of the work environment.
It's so easy. And I still catch myself doing it now. Like if I am feeling a little bit off kilter and I know that kind of there's something that is troubling me, I'll go into my emails and I'll spend hours on my emails and I'll really kind of get a lift and get distracted from what the problem was, which is it's a good thing in some ways, but I've actually not dealt with what was the underlying thing. So
exactly.
You get such a dopamine hit, don't you, from actually just responding to emails and clearing your inbox, that it can be a really positive distraction.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a little bit like social media. People can sit and scroll all day, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and get lost in it. And again, it can be a positive. It could be inspiring you, motivating you, but it's a distraction from something else.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing coming out here, is distraction is the key. What are you distracting from? So tell me then, I mean, you talked about some of the challenges you face. What would you say the biggest obstacles that you've overcome?
So I've probably described a little bit about them already, but I would say back in 2016, definitely addressing work-life balance. So I was constantly on my laptop until kind of midnight. So particularly when Emma was little, I would kind of get home from work at 6-ish, do tea with her and get to bed, read her a story between 6 and 8. And then get my laptop out again, and I'd start at 8, be working through then till midnight, and then up again at 5, 6 in the morning. So I wasn't getting enough sleep, and kind of I wasn't being as productive as I could have been at work because I was just constantly in it and not being present where I was. When I was at work, I was feeling guilt about being at work and not being around for Em. When I was kind of with Em, I was feeling guilty about not being at work. So I had to kind of get over some real limiting beliefs about myself, and kind of particularly guilt complex, and kind of really focus on being present and accepting that I'm kind of doing the best that I can do and what I'm doing is good enough. So doing that and actually kind of overcoming the fact that working 16 hours a day didn't actually make me a good leader, which is kind of what I thought when I was younger and I was starting in my director career. And actually, now that I know that I'm far more effective when I've got more joy in my life, when I've got balance in my life, when I've got positive nutrition and energy in my life, and when I've actually got really good relationships with people, because I must have been awful to work with and live with at times because I was just so exhausted and so kind of burnt out.
Yeah.
So my work-life balance was one of the kind of really big things that I overcame. And
Mm.
then very much in quick succession, the kind of separation from my ex-partner. So we've been together since I was 16. So he was kind of like completely my life. And so kind of rebuilding my life and still kind of carrying on working and doing kind of my director role, and kind of managing the alcohol thing that I've just talked about. Doing all that in the same kind of time was really kind of quite intense and
Mm.
quite emotional, and a lot of stuff that came up for me, quite negative stuff, quite a lot of grief that I was processing at the same time. And then more latterly, it's been much more positive around the things that I've overcome, around how I actually really put positive habits into my life. But it's been a real experiment because everything in my kind of makeup was about work hard, was about some quite negative beliefs. So actually changing my mindset to be much more positive and to start to live really intentionally has been something that's taken work and taken effort. But I absolutely believe that kind of joy lies on the other side of intentionality, because we know, don't we, in our work lives, that if you plan to do something and you schedule it in, it gets done. If you don't plan to do it,
Mm.
quite often it isn't going to get done. And I believe joy's like that. I believe you've got to plan in time for yourself and time to
Yeah.
find your joy and to prioritize playtime and rest time and fun time.
Yeah, yeah. And you just reminded me actually of something. I completely agree with what you said. And I think, again, we're all guilty in some shape or form of not doing that because we prioritize our work and, our commitments and not the fun that kind of just fits in where there's a bit of space afterwards. And I remember last year I spoke at a tech conference, and the keynote was Michelle Obama. And
Wow.
one of the things that she shared was that in terms of managing her day to day in her life, she prioritizes all of her family commitments in her calendar for the year before, and all this, the school events and so forth for her daughters before she starts putting in anything else.
Yeah.
And she said, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 days a week. I think it was 2 days a week where those are the days that she would get all dressed up, suited and booted and whatever, to go out and be seen and to do her interviews and any public engagements that she might have on those 2 or 3 days. And everybody knew that the rest of the time she was not available. She'd be in her trackies, she'd be relaxing and her whatever she wants to wear, not being out in the public eye, but then spending time with the family, doing what she wanted to do and enjoying her time and creating that balance. And it was very interesting. It was eye-opening for me to hear that for someone like Michelle Obama of that stature, and that, as she is still prioritizing, as you say, creating that joy in her life and her priorities of her family, spending time with the people that she wants to, versus prioritizing her public engagements and her interviews and so forth ahead of everything else, and then trying to slot the family time in and her downtime in. So if she can do it, we can all do it. And it's hard.
Absolutely.
So tell me, Kath, what strategies have you used to deal with this?
So I've developed, as part of my journey, because I'm a strategy and systemsy person in my day job, I like to have methods and recipes and things that I follow. So as part of my kind of research and my own experience and other people's experience that I coach, I believe there's 5 things that are there to kind of enable us to lead a joyful life. And I've developed a framework called the Joyful Life Liberator to help people live joyful lives. And I believe it's 5 ingredients. So I think the first one is how you embrace yourself and how you embrace others. So really knowing how to be kind to yourself, how to love yourself, because I think the most important relationship that you ever have with anybody is yourself. And if you don't love and accept yourself, it plays out in your work relationships, in your personal relationships. So really kind of knowing how to embrace yourself, how to embrace others, and kind of be aware when you might be being triggered, and kind of embracing spirituality, which has been a really important part of my journey as well. So that's the first part of the recipe. Second part of the recipe is about your ethics and how you have a mindset of appreciation, focusing on the future and knowing what you want your life to look like so that you know where you're heading. The third part of the recipe, I believe, is about your energy levels and kind of looking after things that you would typically know how to look after. People talk about a lot about exercise, about nutrition, but also things about how your environment is supporting you and how you're getting enough downtime and enough rest. The fourth part of the recipe is about enjoyment and really prioritizing time for big things that you might want to do, the holidays, the big parties, big events, but also the smaller things like, actually, do you really want to go and try how to paddleboard? That was one of the things that I really wanted to do. I want to go and try paddleboarding and going kind of trying sitting in a forest with a book for the day. So that's the fourth part. And then the fifth part is kind of how you bring it all together. So how you kind of create everyday ethics that really support you to live a joyful life. And the everyday ethics bit, I think, is really key. So it's about knowing those things that are going to really support your well-being. And so I have 5 non-negotiables a day that I do for myself. Putting those in place that you know are your kind of key building blocks, but then also scheduling your day so that you know you've got time to do things that you love, even if it is just for half an hour or an hour a day, but knowing that you've got some time to do things that are really for you and not for anybody else.
Yeah. And tell me a little bit about how has that come together? Because obviously you said you're very much about processes and methodology. So is that all drawn from your own experiences of how you've helped yourself to overcome, the situation that you were in?
So it's come from my own experiences. It's come from a lot of research. So I'm a qualified coach and an executive coach with a kind of specialist interest in psychology. So part of it has come from my kind of coaching qualification, coaching education. Part of it from my experience of clients that I've worked with and clients that I've helped, and kind of strategies that have been successful for them. And also kind of following really great people and looking at what they do and how they build really joyful and productive lives. So yeah, from a variety of different places.
Amazing. And tell me about your book.
So my book, I have a copy here. So excited. So I am launching tomorrow a book and a journal. So the blue is the book and the colour is the journal. And
does the journal go with the book? The two work together?
They do, yeah. So the book is really my diary and my journal, which I'm a little bit scared about putting into the public domain, if I'm honest. But I'm kind of doing it because I believe that my journey could help and inspire others. I've done a lot of reading, particularly kind of on my sobriety journey, about how other people experience kind of the first week or the first 30 days, the first year. And that really helped me with my journey, about kind of knowing that I was on the right path and the things that I were experiencing were things that others had experienced too. So my diary is very much kind of my journal of the last 2 years, and talks through some of the strategies kind of interspersed with my journal about things that have worked and things that haven't worked. And then the kind of latter part of the book describes my framework, the Joyful Life Liberator, in a bit more detail, and the things that are part of that. And then The journal very much sits alongside it, in that it gives you opportunities to reflect every day on where your emotional state is at certain parts of the day, about things like what you're grateful for, your intentions for the day. And then gives you an opportunity to track the habits that are important for you, so that you know every day, are you doing the things that are going to keep you well. And I know for me, I am a writer anyway, but for me, actually writing things down every day and having that accountability to myself about knowing, have I done what I said I was going to do and what I committed to do to myself, really helps me in terms of keeping me on the right path.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds incredible. And when you said it's available tomorrow?
It's available tomorrow. I'm launching tomorrow.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. I'm so excited for you. And so people can pre-order that, can they?
Yes, absolutely. So there's a pre-order link available, and then tomorrow I'll be sending out the Amazon link to people that have pre-ordered, and offering some special bonus gifts as well for people that decide that it might be for them tomorrow. And one of the things that I'm doing is creating joy circles. So each month I'm starting now to host joy circles, which is about people coming together and just connecting, sharing, and building conscious practice. So there's a number of things that I've done throughout my journey about helping to build my own consciousness that, again, I've used with people that I work with in my coaching practice. And it's things like kind of journaling and being aware of your emotional state and how you check in with your emotional state, and knowing what it is for you that kind of enables you to access those inner emotions. Meditation, I believe, is so important around managing stress and anxiety, but it does take practice, and I believe that you need someone to guide you through it initially. So when I first started to meditate, I had someone that I went to every day for the first 28 days, so that he was kind of checking my practice and my experience. So I believe there's some kind of conscious practices like that that do need support of a community and someone to help you kind of through that learning journey. And then
how will you be running those groups?
So I'm going to be running them online. So I'm going to run some online once a month, and then I'm going to run some face-to-face workshops as well. So I live in Bolton, so I'm going to be running, I've got a little venue that I have hired, so I'm going to be running some face-to-face workshops as well. So a mixture of live and online events. But one of the other things that I'm really excited about bringing into it is dance. So, and for anyone that might be thinking, oh my goodness, dance, I can't dance. I absolutely had that thought. When I was little, I'd always wanted to learn to dance. And I've tried so many different types of dancing in terms of ballet, tap, salsa as I've got older. And I've kind of just never felt, it's like, this doesn't quite feel like I thought it was going to feel. And then I found ecstatic dance, which is it's kind of a dance that you do when you're sober, no tech, barefoot, and it's basically just going and moving your body and letting emotions flow through you. So there's no one's looking at you, no one's judging you, there's no choreography. You just literally go and moving your body to release emotions. And that's been a really important part of my my healing journey. So I'm learning how to kind of run the events and DJ the events at the moment. So I'm hoping kind of to build that into some of my work for the future.
Oh, wow. That will be amazing. That will be amazing. And Joyce, great to have you join us today. Thank you. And she says she loves the idea of your joy circles.
Oh, thank you.
Sounds great. So I want to hear more about that when you start running those as well. So Sharon, thank you for putting in the link. There's the link to pre-order your book, Finding Joy Within, and you can do that now, and it's going to be available from tomorrow, and it's on Amazon, is it?
Yes, it is.
It is. Fantastic. So that is in the comments for you. Let me know if this resonates with you, if you've experienced similar situations to what Kath has described, whether it's within your work, your relationships, the challenges that you're facing, the distractions that you are coming up against. Start to become aware of them. Have you recognized them? And what are you doing about them? And also, I most definitely would recommend reaching out, connecting with Kath here on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and grabbing a copy of her book, which will be available tomorrow. So Joyce, hi there. And Joyce, let me know, what is your biggest takeaway from what Kath has been sharing in terms of distraction and the habits that we pick up without often realizing, which may or may not be good or healthy for us? It'd be great to hear your thoughts. So Kath, what are the 3, let's say, top tips that you would share with us in terms of what you've learned about finding joy within?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I think the 3 things I would say, and this very much goes back to actually my TED talk on resilience, that I think it's similar tips that I would give, but now probably in a more positive way than was perhaps in my TED talk. But definitely about being aware of your emotions. So knowing how to check into how you're feeling. When we wake up in the morning, that kind of half hour is generally the most anxious part of the day in terms of how our nervous systems are reacting. So really checking in with yourself at kind of key parts of the day and noticing how you're feeling. And then kind of the second tip would be about knowing what you can do to change that emotional state. So if you're feeling anxious or stressed, actually just putting your hands on your heart, telling yourself that you're safe, that you're loved, everything's going to be okay. The kind of pressure that you put on your parasympathetic nerve actually takes anxiety levels down. So know what it is for you, and it might be doing that, it might be going for a run, it might be reaching out to a friend, might be going for a coffee, could be doing whatever. But know what's your thing that you can go to that's going to change your emotional state in terms of calming you down or making you energized. Just knowing those things that are important for you. And then the most important thing is about actually taking action and doing it. So for me, I know that the biggest state change for me is exercise. However, I absolutely hate doing it most of the time.
Really? I'd never have thought, because the amount of running I'm seeing you do.
So I know that it makes me feel great at the end of it, but every time that I go for a run, it's a challenge for me, just the first few minutes getting out of the door. So for me, it's about the taking action, and know that once you've taken the action, you're going to feel amazing after it. But it's just so important that even if you don't feel like it, like for me, I know my stress relief is exercise. And even though I don't feel like it, I know that pushing myself through that and kind of using the Mel Robbins 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and getting out of the door, that I know that I will feel better at the end of it. So really, even if you don't feel like it, go and do what you know it is that's going to make you feel joyful.
Amazing. Great tips there, certainly. And I can relate to the getting out the door and going for I go walking, and sometimes I can't be bothered, put trainers on, and it's about, once I'm out there, I'm really glad I've gone. And I used to be like that with the gym, as soon as I'm in there, I'm happy, but it's just the action to get there is the hardest part often.
It's something I've battled with all my life about exercise. I know that I feel great once I've done it. I've not necessarily found the love for it whilst I'm doing it all the time, if I'm honest. Sometimes I'll go out and I'll really enjoy where I am and the scenery, or I'll go to the gym and I'll be really proud of myself for what I've done. But it's kind of sporadic for me whether I get enjoyment in the process or not. But I know that the joy that I get after it, because I know that I've done something good for my body, is really beneficial. Like meditation, I love meditation, and that's no effort. But exercise for me is something that it's an effort, but I know it brings me joy at the end of it, so it's worth it.
That's incredible, and that really surprises me for how much I've seen you posting about the exercise you've been doing, and to say that that's a big deal, and that just shows the power of prioritizing you and valuing yourself enough to push yourself that much more to go do it, because you know the benefits. Well done, you.
Thank you.
So Joyce is saying, what is Joyce saying? I need to create the space to have more joy in my working day. Yes, Joy, you do. And that's exactly what we're talking about here today. So yeah, do listen back if you didn't join at the start and just hear what Kath was saying about, you know, what she was dealing with and how she's kind of pretty much turned that around, I'd say, in her life. And it's so easy to just carry on with the things that we put the importance on. So the work commitments, the family commitments, the things we've got to do, the chores, the tasks, and we come last. And that's when, you know, what's the saying? You can't fill from an empty
pour from an empty cup.
Or pour from an empty pot. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like when we want to give, whether it's to our loved ones, to our job, whatever it might be, we need to be full. We need to be complete. And the way to do that is to fill ourselves with joy, to take care of ourselves, whether it's through our health, creating that time for ourselves. And I think, Kath, you've demonstrated very well that the benefits and how that's turned your life around over the recent years.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us, to add before we wrap up?
No, I would just like to thank you for having me today. I'm really grateful for kind of being able to chat with you and share some of my my knowledge and my wisdom. And I really believe that I'm here to make a difference in the world. And for me, I kind of think for me it's about how I found my joy within, but more importantly, how I can help others to find their joy within too.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. So guys, if you haven't done so, go click on the link in the comments to pre-order your book. It will be out tomorrow. And start looking at prioritizing creating that joy in your life, and reach out to Kath if you'd like any support with that. So Kath, thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the best with your book and your joy circles. I want to hear more about that. And yeah, we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
So guys, I hope that has been of value for you today and you've enjoyed that. I've certainly learned something from Kath and what she shared there, and the importance actually of prioritizing ourselves and taking the time to find that joy in our lives. So as I said, do reach out and connect with Kath if you haven't already done so, and pre-order your copy of her new book, which is out tomorrow. And that's all about finding joy within. And as always, I will remind you to grab your free copy of the Personal Brand Playbook. The link is also in the comments for that. And if you haven't already done so, after this, head over to YouTube, subscribe to my channel. The link will be in the comments shortly, where you can get the previous episodes of the My Brand Live series, as well as the video episodes of my podcast. We've hit, I think, over 50 now. I think episode 54 is out this week. So the videos of all of those are rolling out as we speak, and you can go and watch those, where I'm interviewing tech career professionals, leaders in their field, people who have accomplished so much and are so open to sharing their challenges and what they have learned, some great nuggets of advice and insights that can really benefit you in your career, in your life, and to show you what is possible. So do subscribe and check out the YouTube channel too. Until next time, remember to build your influence, to make an impact, and to be remembered for the right reasons by showing up as the best version of you. Just a reminder, there won't be a live next week. I will be back on the following Thursday, which I believe is the 5th of May. So I look forward to seeing you then. Take care. And as I said, do let me know any questions, any comments you have for me or for Kath in the comments, and we will come back to you. So take care.